Welcome everybody to Calm in Times of Chaos Yoga Flow. I'm Lizzie Brooks and this is Lizzie Brooks Yoga and Fitness. I really appreciate you choosing my channel. If this video gives you any value at all, please do hit like, also subscribe, and let me know in the comments if there's anything specific that you would like that I teach. Let's get calm and let's feel better. Come on and join me on your mat. So as you can see, I have a blanket under my hips here. If that feels good to prop your hips up a little higher than the knees, or at least at the same height as the knees, go ahead and add that on. Close your eyes, hands just gently to the legs wherever they naturally land. Let the elbows soften down, lengthen the spine, elongate the back of the neck just slightly, and rely on your breath a little bit more. So just check in and say, okay, I'm going to follow a slower beat in the body, right? So slowing down the pulse a little bit and hopefully allowing some of the louder or faster thinking calm down a little bit. That doesn't mean that you're not thinking or that your mind isn't racing at all. It means you're just giving a little more time for breath to be a guiding factor. Soften at the bridge of the nose and the nostrils. And imagine that the lungs are just so free to move however they need to move, because they are. Bring your hands together to your heart center and set an intention for this practice. Maybe it's just a word, maybe it's calm or health or love, something that brings you to a feeling of coming home to yourself. Take a deep breath in, sigh out. Open the eyes and just give a shake of any clutter, and start in with the neck and just kind of roll it around. I don't know if you heard, but probably the snaps and crackles and pops of the neck. Ease around, maybe move the jaw a little bit. Ooh, I'm starting to yawn. And get any tension in there that you didn't maybe even know was there. Let the head hang down and restack one vertebra at a time all the way up, and sigh out. Take yourself into a lateral. One hand comes down, so I'll mirror you guys. Left hand down, right arm up and over. And then we'll just take that to the other side. Getting into these lateral parts of the body is so important, and just take it side to side. And it's not a movement we do a lot, unless we're doing yoga. So I'm so glad that you are. Side to side, opening the shoulder too. You don't have to go too far. You don't even have to bend that lower elbow. So if you want to stay a little more upright, you could actually just stay right here. And then one more each side. And then come to an all fours position. So I do recommend using a towel or a blanket today, especially for padding the knees. And in that all fours position, we're going to just allow ourselves to find our spine. So I'm going to round in here, round with me, drape the head, drape the tail, open between the shoulder blades, and then really slowly and carefully reversing that. Make sure you're not leading with the chin, but that you're just kind of slowly finding it in the spine, and the chin doesn't want to be the leader of the movement the whole time. So meaning if I'm here, I'm not going to jet my chin forward and then come into a back bend. So that doesn't mean you can't sometimes use the chin as the leader, but just not today, not now. And exhale, round again. Inhale, neutral. And tuck the toes and come into a nice, generously bent knee, downward facing dog. You can pedal it out here. You can pick the dog hair off your leggings there. Soften the neck. Take a deep, full breath. And exhale, take your time back to all fours. Turn your fingertips towards the knees, heels away. So this is a lot. If it's too much, come way forward and take the weight more forward so your heels are underneath your hips, but your hips are lifted. That will put less pressure than if you sit back like this, knees back, hips back. So find a nice in-between where you're stretching the underside of your forearms. It's a place we rarely stretch, but really critical for the health of the wrists, shoulders, elbows. Deep breath, and hands. Deep breath in. And exhale. Let's set it back into a classic child's pose. Arms come forward, hips back, reach. So if things have been a little chaotic or a lot chaotic, that's okay. That's life and it happens. But we're finding the ground. So in these moments when you're next to the ground, really send your roots down. Really feel what it's like to have the presence of your hands on the earth. And then speaking of staying close to the earth, we're just gonna come into a baby little Sphinx pose here where we're gonna open the heart, but we're not going to peel ourselves way away from the floor. So come on down onto the belly, take the forearms under, the elbows underneath the shoulders, forearms down, fingers are gently wide. Take the feet kind of wide so your low back feels nice and safe and that you're not really hugging towards the midline so much. And then roll your shoulder blades a little gently back, press the tops of the feet down, draw the sternum forward, and only lift the gaze to kind of neutral or very little bit on the horizon. You don't want to lift the chin up, just breathing here. Just making some space in that front body and letting that posterior chain do some loving but still gentle work. Taking care of the spine in all directions today. From here, start to lift the pelvis, tuck the toes, and just walk your knees in underneath you. So it's almost like a puppy pose, but a little bit modified. And then from here, do your cat-cow movement from the forearms. So you might take the knees a little further in, so roughly knees under hips. And this range of movement will be smaller than your initial cat-cows where we were working flexion and extension of the spine. This time the forearms are down, so we're a little bit more into the shoulders. Easy, fluid movement. And come up. And it's not really easy, and sometimes it doesn't feel fluid, and that's okay. But we can have that idea in our head. And then from here, refold your blanket or your towel. If you have a couple blocks for our lunges and the gentle hip openers, then you might want to have those up near the top of your mat. They're not necessary. You can come to fingertips or books or something else. Step your right foot forward, and we're not going for this dropping into the pelvis. We're going into a sweet, easy, slow finding of a stretch. So allow the pelvis to gently draw forward. Top of the back foot can be down or toes tucked. I prefer toes tucked because it engages my shin, which helps stabilize my kneecap, and that's better for my knee. You choose what works, what feels best across that left hip. Inhale here. Exhale, you might move the blocks back if you're using them a little bit. We're going to shift back into half Hanumanasana, really getting a sweet stretch through the back of the right leg. Spread your toes. And that's the gentle flow. Let's really find our breath with that. Inhale, rolling the front body open, front of left hip. Exhale, shift back into that half Hanumanasana, straightening or keeping a micro bend in that right leg. One more time, inhale, roll up, and exhale, draw back. Breathing here, releasing any overworking of the jaw or the neck, and then very carefully coming back, both knees on your blanket. Going directly to the other side. Left foot comes forward, rolling the shoulders back, lift the heart, open here, breathing. We spend a little bit more time at that initial opening, and now we'll go back for that half Hanumanasana, taking it back for that stretch. And don't try to get yourself to that leg. You might even think of coming more forward and out of the pelvis, and that will give you even more stretch through the IT band generally. Inhale, let's roll forward and up. Exhale, draw back. Last time, just really giving a sweetness to the hips, slow movement of a little more lymph, a little more blood, a little more synovial fluid. Exhale, drawing back. And then both knees down. You can keep the blocks here for more of a heart opener, or you can just have your hands forward, arms wide. Knees can go wide here. Draw your heart down, open the chest. And then rising back up, you can move those props over to the side, and we'll come into that second Sphinx pose. Laying down onto the belly. First, just make a little pillow with your forearms. You can put your chin or your forehead or side of your head there and just wiggle the hips a little side to side. Then bend the knees, keeping the knees slightly far away from each other so they don't knock into each other, and just move the ankles side to side, like carefree. Not that we are without care, but the movement and the breath, that can make us slightly more carefree sometimes. Forearms come down again, it's that same positioning. Legs where it feels good for the low back. Tops of the feet down, shoulders roll back, a little bit of the peeling of that chest forward, and then we're really being very mindful of what we're doing in the jaw and neck. So if things have been a little more tense in our life and we've been holding it there, let's let this go. So the back can still work, the shoulders can still work, but we don't need to overdo it in the jaw or the neck. Inhale here, and exhale. Lower all the way down, wiggle the hips a little side to side, and then you can stay all the way down or even come up to a kind of a Sphinx pose where one forearm is parallel with the front of your mat if you like. I'm going to stay down because I want to elongate my lumbar a little more rather than be in a back bend. I'm just going to take one knee in and see if I can find the toes or the top of my foot. You could use a strap here. And from here, I'll put my chin down or my forehead. That's what I would normally do if I wasn't talking and I didn't want to crush my mic. But I'm going to reach my tailbone down and under towards my mat to increase the stretch across my left quads. Breathing here. I would normally be here. And then slowly release. Other arm can become parallel to the front of the mat, either lifted up for more of a back bend or closer to the ground, forehead or chin. Other foot comes in, the heel is kind of to the side of its hip, reaching back and then tucking that tailbone under and towards the floor if you need to exaggerate the stretch in the right quads. I even like to press my foot into my hand into my foot a little bit to increase that. If that bothers the knee, keep it a little bit more slack. Reaching that tailbone to any degree that this gives you the right amount of quad stretch. Slowly unwinding, and then knees go wide and rock it a little side to side with the ankles. So I wanted to open that front body through that Sphinx pose and through the quad openers, especially if we've been sitting a lot and haven't gotten moving too much. From here, let's take it into a child's pose, knees together or separated. Arms can go where you want them. So if you like them forward, to the sides, maybe a pillow, you choose. Maybe kind of this forearms position. Thread your breath through, staying nice and close. Maybe even reminding yourself to place your forehead or your hands down to the ground and recognizing that roots are there. Sometimes we feel like we're hovering or spinning out of control above the earth. This is getting back down, getting back down. It's there. It was there the whole time, kind of like in the Wizard of Oz. We just sometimes forget. And then you can move your blanket off to the side for future use, and we'll come into a downward facing dog. If you prefer child's pose, stick with the child's pose. Pedal it out a little bit more if you're in that downward facing dog. And then full inhale, full exhale. Lower the knees. And we'll come into a seated position. So in this seated position, and I just told you to move your blanket away. If you want your blanket, you can use it here. Thinking of, like from Charlie Brown, was that Linus who had the blanket? All right, sometimes we just need our blankie. And then we're just gonna make a little circle here. So let's not overthink it. Just let the body move with some breath. Just getting into the joints. If this becomes larger, because it feels good to go larger, then that's great. If not, don't worry about it. And reverse that direction. And come on up to center. Soften the shoulders and just cross your legs in the opposite direction. I know, it doesn't feel as good, but that's because we have a dominant way of crossing. Okay, so we want to find balance. So here it is. Draw a circle with the torso, big or small. And use your breath. So I've said this a few times, and I love to think about it, the analogy of when you put oil in a pan and you want to coat the whole pan with the oil and you move the pan around, switch directions, you want to coat the whole body with your breath. And that is necessary when things get a little bit more rough in our lives and the breath tends to stifle. We need to just go back, coat the body, coat the mind, coat the lungs with breath. And then come all the way up. Sit up nice and tall. Inhale, reach the arms up. If it feels okay for you to press your palms away from you with interlaced hands, feel free. If not, go wide or use a strap or a robe tie or a regular tie, whatever you have. Breathing here. Deep breath in. Sigh out. Inhale again. This time, slowly float the arms down on that slow sigh out. And roll the shoulders back and down a few times. So I have this blanket placed here, and it might be great if you like to take your squat poses, your malasanas, with your arches and heels up on a blanket. So I'll show you what that looks like. That would look like this. My heels and arches are up, my ball joints and toes are down, my knees and toes are pointed in the same direction. That's if I try to come more to this pose and I'm falling, or I'm up here and I feel like I can't sit back. The other thing you could use, conversely, is to come to a block. You don't want to put the block at this height because it will be too precarious, okay? So some kind of height. So find a malasana or a squat pose where you can really put weight down into the feet or into the hips, okay? Or a little bit of both, depending on your propping. And then we're gonna let this completely go. We're gonna go yin here, let it go soft, soft, soft. Hang down. Inhale, build it back up. Hands might come to the heart, open the hips. Exhale, round the spine, lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. Inhale, come all the way up. And last one, we're going really soft. And when I say lengthen, I mean just let the weight of the head hang down and kind of lengthen the neck. And all the way back up into that malasana. And we'll come back to seated. But this time we're gonna bring your legs in front of you. A blanket might be nice to put the sitting bones on. You can move the flesh of the sitting bones back, so move that muscle back to help tilt the pelvis and the spine a little bit more forward. Shake it out, maybe roll the ankles, the toes. And we'll just come to a really attainable Janu Shirshasana. So we're not trying to get our nose on our leg. Keep that in mind. That will only cause more chaos. Right sole of foot to the left inner thigh. There's a little baby twist, so I want you to put your fingertips down and just twist a little bit more towards that extended leg, and that knee might be bent and you might use a strap, and just take a little bit of a lean in and breathe. So I would rather see someone up here, a student up here, breathing and stretching, then pulling here, shoulders around the ears, and really having a tug of war with that lower leg. So soften whatever can soften. And then come all the way up, and we'll just switch sides. Little baby twist towards the extended leg. And it's a slow initiation into the hamstrings. You don't want to just, sometimes the hamstrings, when we're stretching them, it feels like we're just being splashed with cold water and the body wants to pull back. So better to soften the nervous system, to let the body know, hey, this is okay to be doing this stretch, and to ease into it than to be very forceful with it, because the body will want to fight back and protect a stretch that's too deep. Slow, steady in your breath. Pick a color that you like. Think about that being painted to the back of your leg with your breath. Inhale, come all the way up. Bring the legs forward, shake them out. And then this is a great time to take your blanket or whatever you have, or even a couple pillows or something, and roll it up and place that as it corresponds kind of the back of the thigh, back of the knee. And we'll come on down onto the back into our relaxation pose. Now, if this feels too vulnerable and it doesn't feel calming, then you can come back down onto your belly and rest there, maybe with your head on your forearms. You could even come into any other pose that feels good, legs up the wall, maybe even you're hanging out in child's pose. But I'm gonna talk you through this, so pick your poise and pick your posture that feels good. And I want to just give you a couple of cues so that that feeling of chaos that you've been in can decrease further just by how you are able to respond to it inside. So this slow, steady breathing that you have found, recognize that you found that all on your own. You might have turned on a yoga video for it, great, but you are doing it and you have chosen it and it exists within you. That slower pace exists within you. So it's attainable. It's just, are we taking the time to be able to find it? I know sometimes it feels, almost impossible, but it's there. So stay with that and place any words of encouragement within your heart that there are so many things that you are doing and so many things in your life and so many things in your body that are working. They are working beautifully. And it's harder to focus on those things sometimes when there are also very big things, and sometimes small things, but also very big things that don't seem to be working. But right now, go to what is. Ground yourself in with what is working, functioning, beautiful. The support that you have, maybe even just the support that you have for yourself. And give yourself space to let those lungs just move freely how they need to move. Not over inhaling or over exhaling. And I'd like for you to really listen in, rest, let go, and drift a little bit longer, which means saying bye-bye to me and saying hello to you, and finding just a few moments of as close to silence as you can. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for caring for your body, for your heart, for your health on all levels. And I hope to see you back here soon. Namaste.